Hey guys, welcome to Always Pinkies Up. Here on Always Pinkies Up, we have real conversations about real topics with real people. And today, we're going to hear from 4 industry professionals about their experiences growing up homosexual. Hey guys, welcome to Always Pinkies Up. Thank you for joining me. Yeah, I'm excited. Thank you guys for coming.
Thanks for having us.
Before we begin our discussion, we can all grab our drinks and do like a
Salute.
little toast.
Cheers.
Salute.
Cheers. Or in the Jewish religion we say L'chaim.
L'chaim. Is it Jewish?
Yes, Jewish.
Got it. L'chaim. You gotta put your pinkies up so you can read.
Oh, right.
Yes.
Always
Pinkies Up. The thing always gotta go up. So we're just gonna go around the room, starting to my right, and you guys can just introduce yourselves. What do you do in your background, your ethnicity?
My name is Jason Mahler. I'm a fashion designer. I work in corporate fashion retail, and I am a Caucasian male, gay male from Brooklyn, New York. And I grew up in a fairly liberal Jewish household.
Awesome.
Hi, I'm Micah, and that happens to be my fiance. I am from Atlanta, Georgia, also a Caucasian male, Jewish also. We both come from very similar Jewish backgrounds. And I'm a blogger, TV host, and producer.
Awesome. Hi everyone, my name is Daniel Leon Davis. I have been married for almost 3.5 years.
Oh my God,
I work as Russell Simmons' social media director and as the senior creative director at the Soze agency. In addition to that, I identify as Latinx and I'm originally from Florida.
In Florida too.
There we go.
My name is Richard Brookshire. I am a nonprofit professional, I guess, and podcaster, originally from Miami, Florida.
And you're Haitian.
Oh, I'm a Haitian. I should have led with that.
You guys are getting married.
We are
married. We just get married. I feel like we're the only ones in this world. Is that, geez, you know?
It's the trend.
Well,
now that it's legal.
My goodness.
For as long as
So we're just going to dive straight into this conversation about growing up, you guys' experiences growing up gay. First question for all of you guys, and we can start with you, Richard.
Okay.
When did you know, well, one, when did you come out? And 2, when did you know that you were gay?
Yeah. So I came out when I was about 15. Do you want to know how I came out, or is that's not important yet?
Not
yet.
Not yet.
Okay, so I came out when I was 15. I knew I was gay probably in the 3rd or 4th grade when I started liking boys instead of girls. So, yeah, like when puberty began. Yeah.
I came out when I was 17 and I knew like 1st grade. Like for real, 1st grade, I liked my best friend and I was just like, all right, cool.
I came out, I don't know what age it was, I guess, but it was right in between high school and college. So yeah, probably around the same time, 17, 18. And, ooh, did you see that?
I did.
Oh, the ice just wanted to have a party. So I was like, thank you for coming out.
Thank you.
No, that was a lot of work. I came out basically just, after I knew, for me, it was that time in between leaving high school and going off to New York, where I knew I was going to college, and I was in Atlanta, Georgia. And I was like, you know what, I'm going to New York, this is the time. Like, I'm gonna spend the summer in between high school and college, like really exploring myself. And but to answer when I knew I was gay, probably around the same time you guys, around like 1st grade, 2nd, 3rd grade, something like that.
I came out when I was 15, and I probably identified with my feelings around 9 or 10. I have very distinct references to watching certain television shows and finding certain actors attractive and identifying what that actually meant.
So when you guys felt that something was different, that you were attracted to the same sex, did you act upon that, or did you still have girlfriends, or how did that work? Or were you just like, okay, well, I know that I'm gay, let me go and try to
Well, I can speak to that for sure because while I knew what my feelings meant, I knew they were real, I did my best to try to suppress those feelings by hooking up with girls and having relationships with girls. So I had maybe 6 girlfriends over the until I came out, and always those feelings like never just went away. It was almost like pray the gay away. It was like let's
Katy Perry prayed the gay away.
Yeah. Well, she said that recently.
She did.
Yeah. So for me, it was like, let's see if this is actually real, and if I can maybe slide by in life by like being with a woman. It didn't work.
Yeah.
Needless to say.
I mean, I think when I was in 5th grade, I remember there was this girl that liked me, so I was her boyfriend, and that didn't last very long, maybe like 3 months, but then we ended up going to middle school, so so that was like my first foray into like girls in general, and I was just more her like taking my last name, like her name was like Ricarda something Timberlake Brookshire, so like cause she had a crush on Justin Timberlake, so she just took his name as well.
Wow.
And that was it. And then in high school, I remember I dated a girl very briefly for like a month, and I didn't know if it was just her, I just couldn't get into her, and then I met this girl at this party. I think this is when I was like 16, so I'd already technically come out to like my very close friends, but I still, part of me was like, let me see if I can like actually date girls, and I think I took her to the movies. And then she wanted to make out after, and I just was like super against it. I was like, I don't want to make out.
I just wasn't feeling it.
Yeah, and then I took her home, and her mother was like this crazy Haitian woman, and she like started, why are you bringing my daughter home so late? I'm going through all this drama for a girl I don't even want. I'm not gonna do this again. That was basically the extent to which I experimented with girls.
Wow.
Yeah.
See, when I was younger, I guess around like 4 or 5, maybe 6, whatever. I was young. I felt that something was different, but I didn't want to act upon it. Like, I didn't want to be gay. I didn't even know what it meant to be gay. I just knew that I thought that boys were cute. And I was like, okay, well, that's nice, but I want girlfriends. So I had girlfriends all throughout elementary school, middle school, throughout high school. I had girlfriends. But I was in 3rd grade.
Ooh, 3rd grade. Let's hear it for 3rd grade.
Oh my god, but I was in 3rd grade. I'm sorry. There was this boy, he was like, I was such a fast ass. He was like, I want you to teach me how to tongue kiss. I was like, okay. And so I taught him how to tongue kiss. I mean, I was really good at it in 3rd grade. But he was very much younger than me, and that was the first time that I've ever even experimented with like, well, not experimented, but
Talking about
I guess like had that type of interaction with like a guy. But even after that, I was like, no, it's not for me. And I didn't want to accept the fact that I actually had a connection on that level with other men because I didn't want to be gay. And not that I thought that there was anything wrong with it, but I wanted girlfriends. Like I wanted to be straight, and it just died. It just went away. But my entire life, my family would always ask me, like, Sean, are you gay? I'm like, no. Like, why do you keep asking me? Like, I said no the first 10 times that y'all asked me. So the notion of coming out, like, what does that mean? Because I never really say that I came out. I didn't have like some type of party and call all of my friends and say, hey y'all, guess what? Like, I'm gay. Like, to me, I didn't feel like it was anybody's business. So if I told like my friends in confidence, it's like, okay, y'all know, but I didn't create like a banner or put it on social media and say, hey guys, FYI, I'm coming out today. Like, this is my grand.
I think it's like coming out to people that have been questioning you or people that really are important to you in your life. Like, I'm sure in some of our lives, like there was that person that was like a confidant, right? It was like a friend that like you could tell anything to, and you probably had some really intense conversations with them and about your feelings, and you trusted them, right? So coming out to someone like that, I think, is coming out. It's not necessarily going online like it is today.
Right.
For us, like our age grade, our age bracket, like today people are going onto YouTube and making like a coming out video, right? For us, we didn't have that really. I mean, we did, but we didn't. And even if we did, is that really how we wanted to come out?
Right.
We wanted to come out to the people that maybe meant the most to us, that like it actually affected them, that maybe we would not be ending up with a woman, like maybe it's our parents, and maybe they hoped that we would have kids one day. And you're saying, listen, it's not that we're not going to have kids, but it might not be exactly the way that you envisioned it.
It won't be a surprise. There are a lot of pluses. Yeah, for me, it was really interesting because I went to a huge high school, like 4,500 kids, and
In one school?
In one school, one high school, and I remember I came out to like 2 or 3 people, like 2 of my best friends, and then I came out to one of my friends who had graduated. And with a school that big, obviously like the parties are really big. And there was a party I couldn't go to, and my friend hadn't realized that like I hadn't told other people because they weren't on campus anymore. And so they like randomly said it in a party, and they're like, yo, I can't believe Daniel's gay. And so I literally showed up to school the next day with like everybody coming up to me and being like, so you're gay, you didn't tell me. And I'm like, what? How are you the victim of this? Like, how are you the problem? So yeah, it was really interesting. And for me, I mean, I talk about this all the time, but I actually ended up having to come out twice. So I came out as gay in, I was 17, so junior year of high school, right?
Yeah.
And then just a couple years later, I ended up having to come out as undocumented. And I was undocumented. And it was really interesting because it was like the same process, right? Like I had to call my best friends who like would want to know like that I'm undocumented, and like get them on the phone and be like, hey. So it felt really weird to like go through it twice and go through it while being older too.
Yeah. I did find that, like, you know, for me, one of the biggest struggles was that label was projected onto me from such a young age without me having anything to do with it. So when you say, like, I don't really know when I came out, it's almost like or like someone came out for me. Like, I feel like that is such a big part of my personal narrative, because I was gay long before I was ever gay. So, and my coming out was kind of almost like I think my mother actually came to me and asked me, like, are you gay? Are you gay? And eventually it was kind of like, you know, are you struggling with this, or are you just struggling? Because I was struggling, and, you know, I in the end it turned out I actually wasn't struggling with my sexuality, but the fact that, again, that was kind of taken away to a certain extent, like,
The coming out process.
Yeah. And I think that's, you know, that starts it started at a young age for me.
Yeah.
I feel like I see it started at a young age for a lot of other kids, where it's like other kids on the playground, you're gay, or you're a girl, or you're...
Right.
Yeah. I like, Darnell Moore has this saying that it's not coming out so much as it's inviting in. And so, like, I kind of have adopted that in, like, the way that I kind of live my life. And very similar to, what's your name one more time? Daniel, Richard. I had to come out twice because I was in the military under Don't Ask, Don't Tell, so I couldn't be actively kind of out, and then I had 2 coming out processes because of that. And then also similar to you, like, I was labeled gay far before I even knew I was gay, so
Same.
yeah.
Like, am I?
Right.
Okay, well, thanks. Were you guys bullied when you were...
Yeah.
When you were growing up, and how did you deal with that? Because it's not like you could go to your parents and say, "Hey, mom and dad, I'm gay," because they didn't know. It was like something that was in, not secret, but you kind of kept to yourself.
I mean, my bullying, for example, started at like really early on, like 3rd grade, 4th grade, whatever. But then it got to the point where like, and at that point, like, you can't help or hide your feelings. Like, your parents are fully involved, and if they're not involved, maybe your teachers see what's happening. They're telling your parents or something. But for me, like, when it got to high school, someone used car paint, or like, you know, the one where you would write like "just married" for people that are happy. Somebody wrote "fag" across my windshield, and I had to drive home with paint on my windshield, and my dad's kind of like, "Why is there paint on your windshield?" And I'm like, "Well, you know, this is like just another day in high school for me." You know, and that was like really hard for him, because it was like, this was right before I was about to leave for New York, and he's like, "So, are you?" So same thing as Jason, like, but much later on in my life. He's like, "So are you? I'm about to leave for high school, leave for college, and he wants to just make sure that like everything's gonna be okay, you know? Like, are you cool?"
Yeah.
And at that point, that's when I like basically came out, was telling him, you know, This is all happening for a reason. Everybody knows but me, and now I'm okay with it, and I'll tell you.
Yeah. I think with me, just to a point earlier that you were making, like, even now, especially living in a city like New York, it's like so normal for me to just be living my everyday life. It's when I leave New York and people ask me if I'm gay, and I'm like, oh shit, I'm gay.
Yeah.
Like, I didn't know I had to say that, but like, your curiosity is peaking, but like, and then it becomes odd and awkward because then it's like, I'm just living my life.
Exactly.
And I'm not trying to
That's not who I am.
explain it to you.
Right.
Exactly.
Are you straight?
Right.
Are you straight? I just like want to go around.
Yeah. So before we get to know who we really are, like, what is your sexual, like, why does it matter?
Right.
Because that's not who I am. It's just
Like,
my
are you gay? Are
preference.
you interested?
But I
Like,
it's more about them,
Right.
like, to validate the suspicion that they have. Like, yes,
Yeah.
you're right. I am gay. Like, you
have
figured
gaydar.
it out.
Right, so
you know?
Yeah.
Like,
Did that pay any of your bills this month?
Right,
For you
exactly.
to know that I am gay? Like,
Yeah.
I don't understand sometimes. Like, what's the point?
You know
of
what it is, I think, too? I think whenever, like, I was closeted, for example, I felt like there was, like, a sense of distrust. It was like, I felt like I was part of, like, an in crowd, if you will, in high school, but always on the outside. Like, it was like I was included, but then maybe not included in, like, a lot of things because I wasn't being true to who I really was. It's like that joke in, like, movies where they're like, you know, like, can't bring the lesbian girl to, like, the pool party.
Yeah.
And I felt that way. I was like, I felt that.
Yeah,
I
you're
fully
like-
did. Like, it was like,
that's the Mean Girls reference.
Mean Girls. I will always have a Mean Girls reference. I'm like, wait, what movie was that from? But I think what it is like when you're not being true to who you are, people smell it. People sense it.
Yeah.
It's the law of attraction. Like, your frequency that you're sending out to the world is really mixed.
Yeah.
You don't know what your frequency is. Your frequency one day is like trying to figure out, am I? And then your other frequency that's like your actual heart is telling you like which way to actually go. But when your gut is telling you different things, or when society or your parents or your relatives are telling you something different, you're sending out a mixed frequency to the world.
But how can you really be true to who you are when you witness people being killed for being gay? You know, people being bullied for being gay. So I don't think it's you not being true to who you are, but it's like, okay, it's a responsibility. Like when you finally decide to come out, and you have to accept that responsibility and be okay with what happens next. Because granted, it's not, people are more accepting of it today than they were, you know, back in the 50s. You know, some people. A lot of people are a little bit more liberal, but you still have those people who aren't. But people still deal with those type of bullying even as an adult.
I think like my coming out story was I was getting bullied anyway, and so my thing was I think when I was 15, I don't even remember exactly what made me want to like formally come out, but I was like, I'm being bullied anyway. Am I gonna just allow people to make me hate myself? And I think I went. This one summer happened, and I came back after the summer, and I was just a new me, like, and I was just very standing in my own truth. And it was then that people actually stopped making fun of me, and like, because I wouldn't allow that to be a joke, like, because it was part of who I was. And the next thing you know, I was like one of the popular kids, whereas like I spent all of middle school being like the one that was teased with no friends who sat in the corner, part of potentially because I was allowing people to do things to me, and then I just took ownership of it, and then when they couldn't make it into a joke, then they just left it alone. You know what I mean?
I think for me, this idea, what I always thought about even when coming out, so I wasn't like really bullied for being gay growing up. Like, yes, people said it and people like mentioned it, but it was never like to a point where I like went home crying. And I was like, fuck. But what was really interesting to me was like the masculinity, femininity.
I'm going to give it that later.
Oh, there you go. So I think for me, it was really interesting because when I came out, my mom like sat in my room. I had just come out to my friend. My mom sat in my room and was like, what do you have to tell me? What do you have to tell me? For like literally 2 hours until I was like, you know what?
Always know.
And first of all, you do like the real fucked up shit, which like it's real fucked up to like the bi community, and you do the like, oh, I'm bi.
Oh, right.
Like, I was gonna add, by the way,
Okay, so the bookends here, we're gay. The middle, we're all here being like, we can't choose.
What's crazy about, and now I'm in a whole different place in regards to how I challenge my family around masculinity and femininity, and I recognize also the privilege I have in like being like a hairy, bearded, right, like, and presenting as masculine to an extent. And so the piece that killed me was that my mom and my sister's first question after like coming out was like, So you a bottom or a top?
I didn't even know what that was.
Oh my god.
Yeah, no, but it was because I knew it was because if you said, because especially in the Latino community and communities of color,
It's more
right?
acceptable
Like
to be one
it's
than
more
the other.
acceptable to be a top,
Yeah.
right? It's more
But
acceptable.
does a bottom
to be
make you
a person.
feminine?
That in people's
There's an assertion.
there's an assertion that there's this idea of
Assumption.
femininity in like being a bottom, and so
Yeah.
that really like messed me up because I was like, these motherfuckers really out here asking these, like it was literally my mom's first question.
Yeah.
But
I was
that's
like,
also like we do that to
Now
ourselves.
you, like,
in this day and age,
stage,
too,
but
though.
are
I
you-
feel like now there's a revolution of kind of like breaking down the barriers between top and bottom and masc and femme, and that like you can be masc and be a bottom and be femme and be a top and desire those things.
Yeah.
You know? But for so long, like I mean, I've been out now for a lot longer than I was in the closet at this point, I guess. You know. So I felt it so much, like the definition being projected onto me as like, you know, what I enjoyed dictated this other thing about who I was, you know? And that was very much something I experienced within the gay community.
Yeah.
Not just externally. And also to that point, like, those are always just questions that, like, I feel like people feel comfortable asking gay men, but you don't necessarily hear them asking other people.
Right.
Yeah.
Ever. And there's
Yeah.
something about that. There's
Right,
something
like
about
I
the
never
comfort
asked my
there.
straight girlfriend like if she
Yeah.
rides her guy like, on the top,
Right.
or if she likes it doggy style.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That would
Right.
be considered rude.
My mother would never ask my sister that, but like totally there's that gauge or like this trying to like understand
Right.
what kind of
They're trying to
It's
like
kind of
place you in
disrespectful, though.
the
It is.
heteronormative kind of landscape.
Yeah,
of what-
of course.
how they approach sexuality, and it's for them trying to fit you into a box
Yeah.
that's really predicated on this approach to like heterosexual
Yeah.
Right.
sex,
Yeah.
right?
It's interesting because you kind of segued into my next topic about the way that the Latino community perceive homosexuality and as far as masculinity and femininity. So for each of you, when you guys came out,
Yeah.
how did you deal with that culturally with your parents and the culture as a whole and the community that you guys grew up in?
Well, I'm married. So I felt like I had to like deal with it and fast forward almost with some of my family. My mom, I grew up super Catholic. Like I was like the youth leader at my church, Catholic, right? Got kicked out of the church when I came out because I wouldn't pray the gay way, and I was like, yo, I'm just not doing this.
Like, what's the gay way?
But no, pray the gay way.
Oh, pray the gay way.
I was like,
I just said pray the gay way. I'm like, I didn't know there was a gay way. Okay.
I mean, if there is, I was probably doing that. No, but for me, it was really interesting because I had to challenge my family on the religion aspect, right? And my mom, luckily, had always been one of those people that even though we grew up Catholic, she was one of those, like, I am Catholic, but, like, I don't necessarily need to go to church, and, like, I don't agree with everything in, like, organized religion. But she definitely was, like, she went from, like, within 10 years, from, like, disown me, don't talk to me, don't look at me, to, like, is, like, best friends with my husband. Right? And so seeing, I think being able to be the person in my family who, like, I'm the only, well, not now, but a year ago, I was the only out LGBT person in my family. And so being able to challenge my family on that and being like, well, you know, my marriage has also lasted more than, like, a lot of you all. So, so I think it's really, it was this push in my family in particular to be like, there were definitely people who were on the like level 300, you need to pray this away, you need to pray this away. And it was people who I did not expect to step up.
Oh,
it was my brother, who is literally the complete opposite of me, like goes for his birthday, he like leaves the house with a rifle and comes back with like a deer around his neck. And he was the one who was like super protective of me and was like, everybody back the fuck down. Like, he's gay. It's okay. Like, let him go do what he needs to do. So that was really interesting.
Yeah.
My brother, who's just like your brother, is also gay. He literally would come back with a deer around his neck. Like, he's a totally redneck southern guy. Never in a million years thought he was gay. We were at a concert together in high school, and he said, and I said, I was ready to come out. I said, Zach, I gotta tell you something. I had told my mother and father. I said, I'm gay. He said, me too.
Wow.
I'm like, what?
Stole my
This-
coming?
I'm like, first of all, you stole my coming out. Two, I'm drunk and I'm I'm not sure if I should believe you or not. Because you used to chase me around the house with a plastic knife screaming faggot.
Those are the ones that were normally gay.
I was like, so I do believe you.
Yeah.
But you're Haitian, and Haitians, they have a whole...
Yeah. Well, I grew up Catholic, and my mother was very, very religious. Even at some point, she decided she wanted to become a nun and tested that out for a year. So she's very Catholic. But when I was coming out, and it kind of her diving into Catholicism kind of intersected with my coming out. So that was kind of very difficult for our relationship, and she would like throw holy water on me and like get like oils and like try to like, you know, and then she used to like leave conversion books on my bed, and like there'd be like these random medals everywhere in my room, and like it was that. But at the same time, simultaneously, she was always telling me that I was loved, so she never really quite disowned me, but she did have a habit of like demeaning my sexuality and or like I remember one time she had gotten engaged, and I said something to the effect of, oh, well, you know, I'm happy for you, and I hope you're happy for me one day when I get engaged. And she was like, don't compare your homosexual relationship to this or whatever. So there's definitely been growth there, because I just got out of a relationship, but she was very close to my past two boyfriends, and was very open to that and very supportive. So there's been growth there, but it's taken a long time. And so, yeah.
Yeah. Did you guys get like put out? Well, I know you said you were.
I didn't get put out, but my mom literally stopped talking to me. Like, so she had to drive me to school. Being undocumented, I couldn't have a license. And she had to drive me to school, and she sat me down, like, I think the day after I came out, and she was like, I don't want to talk to you. I don't want to look at you. Like, if you're not in the car by the time you need to be in the car, like, you got to figure it out. So she did that for like a good year, until one day I secretly introduced her to a friend who ended up, and I went to go tell her. I was like, oh, by the way, that guy that you met, blah, 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 blah. And she's like, yeah, I know, you're dating him. And I was like, moms always know. So, yeah.
It's true. They have an intuition that's, I mean, they know from the time, most moms say, like, and I've talked to other gay friends' moms, and they say, yeah, I knew when they were like really young, you know, you had, or at least if they didn't know, because obviously you can't know, they suspect, right? They suspect that.
I think even when I came out, I think I had my first boyfriend, very loose term now, but like I had a picture of him next to my bed, so I was just like do things that I knew would push him like get my mom like upset.
It's reckless.
But like I didn't introduce her to my boyfriend until maybe like 5 years ago. But like so there was always like a gradual process where I was like pushing her to be a little bit more understanding, a little bit more open. But I wasn't doing it all at once. Yeah. And it's funny because like literally no one in my life got that kind of tender love and care when it came to me accepting who I was. It was either you're gonna be, but with my mother, I think I made the exception of like I will work with her because I love her, and if she's willing to work with me, then we can bridge that divide. Yeah. But with everyone else, like literally, if you can't accept it, I don't give a fuck, and you just won't ever see me again. So, but like, you know.
See, I didn't even tell my mother. My sister told my mother, and I was, like, livid. But once she finally, I guess it was confirmed for her, and when I came away to college, we were like best friends. We were the best of friends. She would tell me stuff, and I'm like, you know you're talking to me, right? Because we have never had those kind of conversations.
This goes back to what I was saying, though, about living your truth. Yeah. You know, it's like people want to be around people who are living their truth.
But they don't make it easy for you to be able to live your truth.
They don't. But that's not your problem.
Yeah. It's often because they're living in a lie.
Right. Yeah.
And the ones that are living in a lie feel upset when you're not.
Right.
You know?
Right.
It's like
somehow it
we're all
affects them.
supposed to live in a lie.
It makes it have to be a mirror. Like you're a mirror to their own lie, and so they don't like that.
Yeah. But maybe they didn't help facilitate that opportunity for you. Yeah. Maybe it's a moment of introspective, you know, like I haven't been open enough to that person to allow them to be truthful to me.
Yeah. You know? It was a moment. I was like, wow. Now that you guys are out, do you feel safe as far as like, you know, harm wise or harm being done to you?
It's funny, I'm the most aware of my sexuality when I am home in Brooklyn, in my neighborhood where I grew up. I feel like that's where I feel the most stark contrast of myself to the environment that like I grew up in. Maybe it's just telling to how I felt growing up, but outside of that, I think, you know, in the few moments I don't feel safe, I try to find the courage to feel safe so that I can kind of project that. I think, like, especially being in a relationship, and we've been together now for 3 years, like, we try to project that when we're together in public, and you know, that.
But we're
it's
also
okay.
cautious. I think
Right.
that that's the other thing too, is like, yeah, you can feel very safe and, you know, overall, but then it's like, there's a limit to like how free we can really even feel. It's like, does that, because we love each other and because we want to show each other affection, does that make it okay for us to kiss on the train platform? Maybe not. You know, maybe not. Like, we don't want to ruffle any feathers. Like, we don't want to.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm like half a step up. No, go ahead.
Oh, I'll be the bitch ass.
I'm kissing you on the platform. I was like, we are going to be on the train, we're going to kiss, we're going to be on the platform, we are going to walk the street holding hands. Like, nah, I'm not about to let y'all be like, y'all can't be affectionate in public because you are uncomfortable with the way I live my life. The way I live my life has nothing to do with you. If you don't want to see it, put your sunglasses on, put some earphones in.
I won't say that I've always been that way. I think there, especially when I was younger, I think there was definitely this level of safety that I wanted to try to maintain.
Yeah.
But as I've gotten older, especially after going through the military, like, I ain't afraid. Like, and I think part of it is like, a lot of times we walk into situations, and I'll try to think, if I am afraid or if I have any kind of slight fear, it's like, why am I afraid? Like, am I making broad assumptions about the people? I mean, you don't want to walk around the world stupid,
Of course.
either. But at the same time, it's like, I don't want to ever be one that's kind of like projecting my own insecurities onto other people and then assuming that they're thinking things about me when they're not. So I think I've been really conscious about doing that and just trying to. But at the same time, it's like, even like, I think it was like 2 summers ago, there was like these like spur of attacks against like gay men in New York City. And so even when that happened, I was like very conscious of like, okay, I was in a relationship at the time, and like just making sure that we were being safe and not being kind of like deliberately trying to be making anyone whatever. But at the same time, it's like, you never know when that's going to happen. And so I don't want that to stifle the way that I live my life, you know? But it's hard. I think it's a balanced line that I think for me as someone of color too, like I think most of the time, and at the end of the day, I operate under a lot of light skin privilege. I think there's a masculinity about me that I think is a protection or a shield to a lot of things that where I worry about my friends that are more feminine or that skirt the lines of femininity more. Like for me, it's like, who am I to just walk around being afraid? Like, they're the ones that are going to be catcalled or harassed. I'm never really subjected to that.
Yeah.
And I remember one time I was walking, every time that I am out with my friends, that's when I'll hear, like, people drive by and say faggot or, like, you know, want to, like, try to do things where it never really happens to me. But yeah, so I think it really depends. It's an individual experience at the end of the day.
I think it completely depends. So my husband is like 6'4" rugby player, like, right, super masculine presenting. And we lived, when we first moved to New York, like I said, I didn't really get bullied. I think I got called faggot like twice in my life prior to New York City. And the neighborhood that we lived in Brooklyn at the time, every time we held hands, people would like literally walk behind us and be like, yo, faggot, blah, blah, blah. And like, it was like always escalating. Like, it led to us leaving the neighborhood. So it was really interesting because I'm one of those like, come the fuck on. Like, I'll fucking curse you out. Like, let's go. Like, I can do this. But after having it like repeatedly, it was like, damn, like, you know, like I really feel unsafe at that point, to the point that like someone might like actually do something to harm us.
Yeah.
So that shit's really real. And I think being in New York makes it even more real because everyone puts New York as this like, oh, but New York is like super liberal and super, and I'm like, New York is super segregated into neighborhoods.
Right.
Super segregated into neighborhoods. And the beliefs in, and it's beautiful, right? The beliefs in diversity and culture. But there's also this like home base of like, there are certain neighborhoods that are, I feel, a lot more homophobic, right? Like, that's just the reality of it.
Yeah, even in the Orthodox community, you know, in Williamsburg, you know, it's like, Williamsburg is like the new hot, you know, not new hot, but in the last like decade, you know, but there's cultural divides. There's, you know,
There's that Hasidic guy that like beat up that black gay guy.
Yeah,
And
absolutely.
went to jail. So I mean, it's real.
Yeah.
It's happening. You know.
It's interesting because not going sheetrock. I feel more safe in New York than I feel when I go home to Baltimore. And I only say that because New York is more liberal and a lot more diverse. So you have people from like literally all over the world who reside here. So when I go home, I don't try to not be who I am, but I'm much more vigilant about my surroundings when I'm home. And when I'm here, I'm just like, whatever. I'm about to put on my sheer shirts, put on my shorts in the summertime, and just walk to the train and go outside and just like, whatever. You know, I feel a lot safer here, and I'm not even from here, and it's very weird. But I also never felt like I had to protect myself in Harlem because I never had to experience that. And then my ex, he would just do it for me. I never had to like curse anybody out or like fight because he's just like, nah, we ain't playing those games. So now I'm single. It's like, well, you gotta do it yourself.
Gotta fend for yourself.
And I'm like, dang, nigga, shit. But you're touching on David, right? Daniel, Lord have mercy.
It's all good. If anyone ever messes up, it's David.
Daniel, on the idea of masculinity and femininity. So when you guys were coming up, you know, in maturing, did you know the difference, or that it even existed, the idea of masculinity and femininity? And when you came out, was it okay, I'm going to try to be masculine, or I'm going to try to be more feminine? Like, did you identify with
Girl, I
one?
started smoking cigarettes
Carrie Bradshaw?
to make my voice deeper. Like, I had a cousin who, she had been smoking for so many years that she actually had a masculine voice.
Yeah.
And I, in my head, was like, okay, if I sound like a girl, if like whenever I get on the phone and people are like, yes ma'am, or I'm in the drive-thru and they're like, yes ma'am, maybe if I start smoking cigarettes, I'll get like a raspy voice and I'll start sounding more masculine. Yeah, super aware of that for many years, still am to this day, especially as a news personality, somebody who is on camera. Like, I'm constantly thinking about the way in which I put myself forward, but at the end of the day, you know, we're not actors.
Yeah.
You know, none of us are actors. And while Nicole Kidman can, you know, put on, you know, while she has an Australian accent and she can pretend to be American, we're not that.
Yeah.
And we can't constantly be thinking every day, you know, how
am I making the balance?
How am I going to make the balance? We just got to be who we are. And there's certain things that people who are more effeminate can do to kind of maybe feel more, and maybe it's something with clothing, or maybe it's with your hair, the way you grow your facial hair. You know, there's certain things that I'll never go baby face. Because then I'm gonna look like a young, like, you know, I'll look like I was a young gay boy again.
I don't grow facial hair, so I don't have that. It's like, damn, where's my facial hair?
I mean, so since I was little, I think I definitely struggled with that. I mean, when I first realized that I was gay, like, my nickname was like Sailor Moon. They used to call me that in like 3rd grade.
Oh my God.
And I didn't know I was even gay yet, but that was like when I was first knowing that I was different. And then I used to love playing with Barbies. Like, that was like my thing. Like, I was just, my mom never really made me feel ashamed of it. So it was this weird juxtaposition, because like, you knew I was playing with Barbies, but then you're going to be surprised when
Right.
But at the end of the day, not that you have to be gay to play with Barbies, but still. I definitely had, like, I was drawn to that. And then as I've gotten older, like, I find, of course, like, you go through high school, you kind of want to fit in. And so you're going to try to adapt, and you're going to try to put on in a multitude of ways in order to fit in. But as I've gotten older, like, I, if anything, really embrace my feminine side, and I think it's something that sets me apart. And so, like, I really don't want to feel like I'm being inauthentic. Like, I just want to kind of show up how I show up in the world. You know what I mean? So,
go ahead. No.
I would say I very much took my coming out as permission to play in that sphere a bit more with my femininity. Like, I was all about the MAC lip gloss, like, you know, those moments, like hand-painted floral jeans, like, definitely, like, you know, now that when I kind of gave me, I felt like that gave me the, whether, and the world around me did not agree, for sure, including my mother, who, for as wonderful as she was through the whole process, said really aggressive things to me during that time, and probably came out of a fear that I was going to be targeted, but definitely, you know, tried to end that. But for me, it was like, finally, like, I've admitted this, I'm gonna go for it 250%, you know, and not apologize for it.
I think we all go through a certain level of like conditioning around masculinity to begin with. So there's ways in which that we kind of adapt to that, and like some of it's like we just can't escape because we've been conditioned by it, you know.
I wonder if across the board we all, even though we come from different cultural backgrounds and different places in the world, if our parents' reactions to our coming out, or just being gay in general, is based on a fear that we're not going to be okay in the world, that like we're going to experience like some like so your mom like stopped talking to you. Like my parents didn't do that to me, but you heard my story. It was like right before I was going out to college, and my dad's like, "You're moving to New York. Like, I just want to make sure you're gonna be good. Like, are you gonna like go there and like go wild and like start doing drugs and like get HIV and then like we're gonna like we're living our rest of our lives in the hospitals?" And it was like, slow down. I'm not into that. I'm not gonna do that. But thank you for your concern. I really appreciate that. But I think just like as parents, maybe some of our parents like, you know, didn't know how to handle it but it all come from a place of like just wanting to make sure that like their babies are good. Like,
but then they also been like pathologized around like the way that, or they've also been conditioned around the way that gay people have been pathologized in media, and like our parents grew up around like the only thing they probably the first introduction to queerness or gayness was the HIV epidemic, and so like then kind of how those victims were pathologized past that point. So it's like that's all that they know, and so it's the first thing that comes to mind when you tell them that you're gay.
Someone told me when I won't say who, she was like, "You are going to get AIDS," and I was like, "Excuse me? What did you just say to me?" And I just had to just like hang up the phone in the conversation. Why does homosexuality equate with AIDS and HIV? Like, when did that even become a thing? And I couldn't believe. So what do you think I'm about to go ahead and do? Because now that I said, okay, I'm gay, does that make me promiscuous now? And I'm about to go ahead and just start having all this unprotected sex and just put my health at risk. Why do I have to have AIDS because I'm gay? Like, who told you that?
And I remember my mom, I posted a picture of my now husband on Facebook of us kissing, right? And my mom calls me, and my mom at that point was like super good friends with my ex and like had like made all this progress. And she was like, you know, I really think that you shouldn't be posting things like that, especially if you want to get a job after college. And I was like, so let me explain this to you. If a company does not want to take me because they see this, that's probably a good thing for me, because if not, I would probably end up being harassed within the company. And she was like, oh, damn, right. And so I think for her, seeing that and seeing that narrative is still being pushed around by people, right? Like, this idea of not just safety, but like being able to progress in the world, right? So, yeah.
But see, I think we're also raised to be masculine. Like, you know, we're not raised to be feminine. You know, I was always forced to play sports. I played baseball. I played football, which I actually loved. I played basketball. Like, it was like Sean Utah, you're going to play basketball. So, to my family, there was no option to be gay. There was no option to be feminine. You are going to be heterosexual and you are going to be masculine. And that was it. I don't think anybody wants to accept the fact that, oh my gosh, my child is gay. Oh my god, my child is going to be a bottom. And oh my god, that makes my child feminine. Like, that's like a thing.
That is
You know, like, so are you going to be like a masculine gay? Like, are you going to be like, but I've heard that before.
Like, what kind of gay?
Yeah, like,
A badly dressed bottom. That's the worst. Oh my god.
But like what your mother asked you. Someone literally told me before, someone asked it when they came out, are you a bottom? And I'm just like,
wait,
yes.
I just imagine like two moms like sitting over coffee and being like, so my son came out as gay. And being like, oh, wait, is yours a bottom?
Oh my god!
I do also think that to a certain extent, and if I'm like gonna twist it like in a positive, like there is like a certain amount of like perceived liberation that we get to experience that I think interests or slash intrigues people. Like that we do, you know, that like I would say like there's definitely the criticism, but then there's also the encounters that I have where I think it does come from a genuine sense of like mystery to the whole situation. That there's something exotic about it.
Definitely not.
Like,
I really don't think there is though. It's like we're just
No.
living the same lives they're living.
Oh no, but it's the
It's
unknown.
foreign to
It's the
them.
unknown, right?
Yeah.
It's the unknown. And I think like again today versus like maybe when I was 15, the experience is very different.
Yeah.
I also wouldn't tolerate the same dialogue today that I might have back then.
Yeah.
And I might have even thought that the dialogue back then was kind of like a rite of passage, that like I was supposed to go through those things.
Yeah.
As a coming out gay man, you know.
I was going to get to this earlier, but when you started your last, when I asked the previous question, you started off your thing about the smoking cigarettes. You was like, girl, and it triggered something to me about one of the questions that I was going to have later. As a gay man, do you feel like you are somewhat of a trophy? Because a lot of people, when they are around, a lot of women, when they come around gay men, we call them fag hags, but they just turn like really gay, and they start using all this gay lingo, and you know, they be like, girl, first of all, I'm not a girl. Second of all, I don't know you. We just met. So why do you even feel comfortable enough with me, even though we just met to girl me, like we had tea, you know, a month ago? So do you guys experience that, or do you feel like women become too comfortable when they are around you as gay men?
There's definitely a trophy syndrome when it comes to gay men. I mean, at least in the industry that I'm in, entertainment, with having events and things like that, it's like, you know, anyone who knows how to throw any good event knows that you need to have a few gay men around. Because it's going to turn it up, it's going to be a bit more stylish, it's going to, good conversation, you know. Yeah, there's definitely that exists.
Yeah.
I've been treated most inappropriately, I think, by like I'm touched, like when I show my chest hair, my chest is touched without me asking. I've definitely felt that, even in the workplace actually. Like I've really felt like I've been treated in a way that if I had ever treated a girl that way would not be okay ever. And so there is definitely that. I've experienced a comfort level, and to me it's a very big turnoff actually. Like my closest girlfriends would never do that to me. Like there's a respect and an understanding that I'm more than that.
Yeah.
I think, and I don't know if that I'm saying that now, and I don't mean it in any other specific way other than just like I'm not my sexuality as a whole. And I do think that there is an assumption, and I think that it's a way that people think that they could connect, especially working in fashion. On the women's side of the business, I tend to be the only male. And so there's this I'm like one of the girls thing, which I don't really have a full opinion on how I feel about that, but it has made me uncomfortable in the past.
I think for me, like women have always been a safety net, and they've always been like a path for affirmation. I mean, they've always been they were the first ones to be my friends. They were the first ones to kind of, especially black women, have always played a role in that. But I also feel like, and I think I really started thinking about this maybe like 5 or 6 years ago, that I realized that I would play the gay up around girls, and it was more, I don't know if it was because to make them feel more comfortable or what it was that was happening psychologically, but then I started to really check myself and be like, are you being your full self, or are you playing a role? You know what I mean? That you feel like you need to play in order to maintain this friendship.
Right.
I mean, I don't necessarily have a lot of instances where I feel like I'm being made to be a trophy of any kind, but then I also don't position myself in a way to be exploited like that.
Right.
I actually don't mind being called girl. Like it just, I don't think that deep about it. Like I think if anything, if someone feels comfortable enough to want to call me that, oftentimes I think it's a cue for them to see if this is a safe space for them. I think you can often gauge whether someone's being deliberately disrespectful and or if they're trying to like test the waters to see if you could potentially be a safe space for them. So I don't know. I don't mind being called girl, but I'm also not. I've not often been. If I was called it in a way that would seem demeaning, then I'm sure that I would call it out. But I'm quick to say bitch, like, and it's usually it's a term of endearment.
Endearment, right? Like your close girlfriend is like, She's like, amazing.
I just need you to extend me the same courtesy. Don't
Right.
tell me that you're a problem. You know, I'm gonna say that I'm comfortable you calling me girl, but don't then get mad when I be like, bitch, listen.
Yeah.
Like it's just because it's a term of endearment for me.
Right.
And if girl is a
Yeah.
term of endearment for you, and I can
Right.
extend you that,
Yeah. Right.
It's all love.
Extend
Yeah.
me that,
Yeah.
right? So if we're gonna be like hyper sensitive,
Right.
then it can go both ways.
I think it's, I mean, most of all of it is personal, right? Like when we think about any names or any language that we use, it's so, where we get into the issue is people generalizing it.
Yeah.
But I do think that the part of the reason that we have hard times with this conversation is because we want to be able to say, all right, this is the rule for the transgender community. This is, and it's not that, right? Like I have trans friends who now identify as male, and I can be like, hey girl, right? Like,
Yeah.
hey girl, hey. But there's like, it's just like super, super personal. And I think we have to do a better job as just a community and being able to be like, you know, just like how we talk about preferred gender pronouns.
Yeah.
And being able to be like, all right, what do you know, I want people to come up to me and feel comfortable and be like, look, I don't like being called girl. And I'm like, okay, cool.
Yeah,
I got
exactly.
you.
Being open to that.
Right.
Yeah.
Speaking of community, do you all feel, supported within the community? Because I feel like a lot of hatred, yes, comes from heterosexuals, but a lot of it also comes from homosexuals as well.
Within.
Exactly.
Yeah, I actually don't think I do.
Yeah.
I don't. Like, I feel like I'm a role model for the gay community. I'm out there, like, living my truth on camera, on social media. And maybe it's my approach, maybe it's something that I have to do with, but no, I don't feel like I get, like, an influx of support from, like, fellow gay men being like, love what you're doing. You know what I mean? I do feel like there's like a lot of inner hatred like within the community of just like you're not enough. You don't have the rippling abs. Like you don't have that. So like what's in here, like what you put forth, like what you offer to the world, what you bring to the table isn't enough. It's like we have so much internal there's so many internal dialogues going on in our head and so many experiences that all of us have been through, that I think prevent us from being able to like look at someone for who they are, whether it's like up to your standards or not, and just be like, you go ahead, like you're doing your thing. It's not me,
Right.
but you're living your truth,
And I
support you.
Yeah.
I don't think there's enough of that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There is. I think, but it comes from like our experiences that we're so hyper analyzed as gay men coming up, and then so it becomes difficult for us to kind of like not partake in that in our own communities, because then we feel the need to like hyper judge because we've been hyper judged or whatever, and then like, this like yearning to be perfect, which is like this thing in the gay community.
That's a whole nother conversation.
Right. Yeah, it's a real thing though in the gay community.
It is.
So, and that's why I like what Emil is doing around Native Son, because it's more about affirmation and recognizing one another and affirming one another.
Right.
I will say that like as of late, I have kind of gotten an influx of younger gay men who kind of come up to me or email me and say, and it's funny to me because it's odd to me because I don't feel like I've done much, but for them they feel the need to kind of extend like gratitude for like what I represent to them. And so that's always affirming. And so I think in certain respects I've gotten it from younger generations. I haven't gotten so much from like older gay men, but then I also understand there's a whole generation that's missing because of HIV AIDS, and like that's a real conversation that we often don't have as a community, that like we don't have role models to look up to because an entire generation was like wiped out.
Yeah.
And so we are the ones that are leading the way, and so if it's something that we want to see, then we have to be the one actively engaging in it.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. It's funny that you mentioned the younger generation because we were talking about this earlier, but when I went to the town hall that Emil had for Native Son, and I saw you speaking, I was like, I need him on my gosh. And to speak about his experiences, you were like, I'm not anybody. I'm like, yes you are. I'm like, you're smart as hell, and I'm like, you obviously have a perspective. So it's funny that you mentioned the younger people.
Well, you're an example of the opposite of what we're talking about.
Yeah.
Like you're very supportive of, and so doing more of what you're doing and bringing people together, bringing bridging the gap is
Yeah.
what we need to be doing. This is a perfect example.
And then putting out the narrative that it's okay and it's expected to us to be a community, because we often talk about it in abstract terms, but
Right.
I've often, like, coming up, just not seeing how you actively engage in affirming one another.
Right.
And so part of it is like we as a community just don't know how to do that.
Yeah.
And so we have to kind of show and teach one another, and things like this
Right.
help and matter.
Yeah.
So.
I do feel like there's a false sense though of what that looks like that's being projected out there. Like there's this like sense of support, this sense of inclusion that's like on social media. You see certain people who are like very much subscribing, I think, to like what they need, the version of gay they need to be to succeed in whatever they want to do. And then there's like this feigning of support that comes along with that. But I do think that we still have a long way to go,
Yeah.
especially on like, you know, we can even just think from a celebrity perspective, like certain people who have come out over the last decade, or, you know, there is like, I think still there's an element that's lacking of inclusiveness.
We can sit here and talk all day, so I'm gonna try to like ramp up to get you guys out of here. But it's just getting good because the more you guys talk to them, I think of different things. And you just mentioned like what people see on social media. Have you guys ever felt that you had to water down your gayness in order to elevate in, you know, life, career, you know, whatever?
One person, you know, I'll name names, Scooter Braun, Justin Bieber's manager, from my hometown. I knew him growing up very peripherally, but I asked him for advice about my career when I was just getting started, and the advice he gave me was to water down the gayness. He said, and I said,
Shame on you, Scooter.
Say the same
Look
thing
at me now.
I don't know.
Not say
I
that
don't
now.
know. But he said,
Maybe
but
he's
this was
evolved,
around
but-
the same time as Perez Hilton on the come up, and I said, well, what about Perez? And he said, well, it worked for him, but I don't think America's ready for like a super out there gay guy. And I can't tell you, it wasn't just him. It was a bunch of other people. It was anyone I was really asking for like advice. It wasn't about my craft. It was never like, you should go and take like improv classes, and like you should go and you know, study theater because that would help you on camera. Like you should. It was always like, you should maybe like not have blonde hair.
Yeah.
You should maybe not wear makeup. Like maybe not wear like bright clothes. Like wear like, you know, a nice button down. Or when you're dancing, don't like do this, but maybe like macho it up a little bit. You know, it's more sexy. And I'm like,
Girl.
because girl, as soon as this is flowing, I'm gonna do my thing.
That's funny. Now that you guys are successful in, you know, your own right, and you've gone through all of these experiences, and you've dealt with the good, the bad, the indifferent, you know, of living in your truth and making that choice to, you know, be happy and to be comfortable with who you are, what would you tell your younger self? Starting.
In general in life, having to do with my sexuality or not, I'm always just like, it really, like, it's not that big of a deal. Like in general, like, just calm down a little bit. I think I let it consume me to a certain extent. Again, for me, it always goes back to my coming out goes back to like the fact that was projected onto me versus me getting the chance to make decisions about who I was before that. So it kind of was like a backwards path.
Yeah.
So I wish I had just told myself to take it a bit more, like, you know, a day at a time, and it's all very cliche, but it's just things that felt very abstract to me when I was younger.
I guess I would say like everything that you want or dream or think is possible if like you just set your mind and intentions and everything to that. I'm a really firm believer in The Secret. I talk about it all the time. The law of attraction, like
Excerpts during dinner the other night.
I highlight and because there's such a power in the law of attraction, because it's here, but it's also because here affects everything else that you do, like the way that you show up in the world. Like I always tell him, like when he's like upset, I'm like, just change your frequency. And he used to get upset and he'd be like, I don't know how, because naturally you don't know how. Like, how do you change your like, you don't, but it's the power of your mind. It's the power of your mind to be able to say, like, even if you are unhappy, just say, I am happy,
Right.
or I can make this happen, or money is flowing to me even when money is not flowing to me. So yes, I just think like just the power of positive thinking. It's like the whole like it gets better thing. It's like I wish I could have just given myself that advice and had that foresight to be like it's gonna be okay, because there were so many sleepless nights and there were so many nights of crying and like thinking that it wasn't going to be okay, and I tortured myself. And I just wish I knew that like it was like adolescence. It was like maybe it wasn't going to be okay, but not being okay, like I couldn't plan that. He or she or whatever they are, they're the only one who knows. I didn't know, but look, we're all here. It's fine, we made it. That's my point.
I think to tell my younger self to be a little bit more penetrable, no pun intended. But to really like,
come on, make it easier on us, alright?
But to really allow people to feel like I care, because it's very difficult for somebody to get that type of emotion from you.
For me, it would just be, like I said, it was like a year and a half ago. It's become my guiding question: what are you doing to be free? And so I would just tell my younger self to be free.
I would tell myself to really learn to love yourself before you expect anyone else to love you. RuPaul said it the best, but that's so true, and I think that so many gay men don't really learn to genuinely do that. They pivot from seeking affirmation from others to then seeking affirmation from other men. Their lives live and exist by seeking out affirmation, and when it really the true affirmation comes from within. And so that's what I would tell myself. Focus more on that.
My last very brief topic before we conclude. Growing up, there wasn't an outreach for me for like gay education. One, because I didn't accept the fact that I was homosexual, but it wasn't available either. It wasn't. The internet has progressed since the 90s, but I feel like the generation coming up and even adults, they still aren't educated when it comes to health and how to build a community within the gay community, and they don't go to one another to uplift each other and to be that support for each other. So how can anyone who's watching this video who is gay or straight educate themselves? What are those resources for people to be comfortable with dealing with homosexual people and health? Because that's also
because a lot of schools are not teaching. Well, first of all, they're not necessarily teaching sex ed in general, but let alone definitely gay sex.
Right.
So I think different from our generation, the generation that's watching this has an unlimited amount of resources at their fingertips because of the internet. Whether it's you felt like you were suicidal growing up and you want to know and you want to be able to empathize and be able to almost heal yourself but also help heal others. Maybe it's the Trevor Project. Maybe you do a little research about what the Trevor Project does and become a volunteer. Maybe your town, or maybe it's could be 30 minutes to an hour away, but maybe there's an LGBT center in the town closest to yours. Go there and spend some time there. You don't even have to probably seek out the education. It's just going to be in your face. So I guess my advice would just be to try to be around as many other LGBT people as you can to learn and.
I think also just not feeling the pressure to have it all figured out or to know everything, to accept the fact that this is new and it's something you don't know and that it's okay. I think that when I first came out and I went to the LGBTQ center downtown, my mother was like, oh, there's an 18 and under group, you should go to that. I think for me there was this when I arrived there was already the gay family already existed within that, and I was kind of this outsider, and I think I felt this need to kind of rise up to that and have be as knowledgeable or pretend to be as they were so I could be a part of that. And I wish back then I had allowed myself the time to ask the questions I needed to ask and not be afraid of being judged or, you know. I think the gay community is good at that though, especially for the youth. There are those resources that exist, so more now than especially when I was younger.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. I think for me, I mean, it's been like this in various issues, but I just need allies to like show the fuck up, right? Like, and it's not saying that allies should take the responsibility for for shit that's happening, but like, I had this experience. One of the 2 times I did get called faggot, I got called faggot by a basketball player at our school, and our school was like super open, very Florida-like, and I was walking down the hall, and this basketball player called me faggot, and the quarterback of the football team came up to me, grabbed my hand, gives me a kiss on the cheek, and goes, "Don't talk to my boyfriend like that." Straight, was like, pulled me aside and was like, "Don't you ever let anyone talk to you like that, like I got you," right? And so I think allies showing up.
I'm like, tell me more.
What's his name?
Allies showing up in that way, in a way that like actually puts you on the line, right? Like, of course, people were like, "Oh wait, is like he gay?" Like, we don't know.
Yeah.
And I think that is like a prime example of like ways to show up.
What was the question again? It was such interesting response.
About
I lost.
it was about gay education in
Health.
health.
Yeah. I mean, I do think to all of the points that you guys made, there's an abundance of resources online. I think if it wasn't for the internet, I don't know where I would be as a gay man because, like, I think my first friends, even my longest gay friend, I found on MySpace. And I just, when you were talking, I explicitly remember Googling what top and bottom was, when or Ask Jeeves or whatever it was back then. But then, like, finding some convoluted website that was explaining what top and bottom was to me when I was like 15. So, I mean, I think the internet is definitely a gateway for gay men that don't have access to other gay men or queer people in general. Just to have access to possibility models. And I think there's an abundance of that online, and I think there's such a dearth, and I think it's growing, and there's a lot more resources that are available, but like, there should just be endless resources for queer people of color specifically too, like all around the country, to be able to see people that look like them that are thriving, because that makes all the difference.
Right.
Yeah.
Agreed.
Well, thank you all for
Thank
coming
you.
and sitting on my couch and talking with me. And
Stay in
talking to
school.
All of y'all. Stay in school. Before I wrap up, just let everyone know where they can find you guys on social media and all that good stuff.
I'm at JD Mahler, JDMAHLER.
Oh, you're hilarious. Spelling it out. Micah Jesse on Instagram.
Leon X Davis on everything.
Yeah. RSBNYC on Instagram, and I barely use Twitter, and Richard Brookshire on Facebook.
Such a fancy name.
You know?
Richard Brookshire.
It's like very
It's like Richard Brookshire.
Well, thank you guys again. And before I leave you guys, I actually have a quote for you guys, and it is on the topic of inclusion and identity. And it's actually by Audre Lorde, and she says, "It is not our differences that divide us. It's our inability to recognize, accept, and celebrate those differences." So thank you guys for watching. And remember, always pinkies up. Cheers, guys.
Cheers.
Cheers.